Before the UFC, before the $100 million deal with Spotify, and even before being the host of Fear Factor, Joe Rogan was an actor on a 1990s sitcom called News Radio.
Oh no, all over my shirt. Oh well.
And his character was similar to the character of Joey from Friends, a dim-witted but lovable pretty boy, which catches a lot of people off guard because over the years, Joe has evolved into this amorphous Battletoad-like little pasta monster. And it's hard to imagine looking at him now that at one point he was, you know,
really ridiculously good looking.
But alas, he was, and in this video, we'll discuss and speculate exactly what went down to take him from this fresh-faced young lad to this live-action Humpty Dumpty-like gentleman that we know him as today. So buckle up, grab a drink, grab some popcorn. This might be a long one. We're about to analyze everything, including Joe's nipples, which seems to be a very hot topic of debate lately. And for those wondering what my exact qualifications are to be able to break this down so scientifically, well, not to flex, but I did major in biology in community college, and I almost finished the semester. And just so we don't have any silly little questions or misunderstandings from those that decided to skip this part of the video, I'm just gonna put my scientist hat on. Now you know. So let's start with the easy one first. Obviously, Joe used to have hair and now he's bald. That's as simple gets. He has genetic male pattern baldness, and even in his younger pictures, it's pretty clear that he's suffering from hair loss. This was a particularly concerning issue in his younger days before he was established because his career essentially relied on his looks.
I knew that part of the reason why I was making money was the way I looked. I mean, I was doing stand-up and I was acting in these shows, but I wasn't an ugly dude, and it helped. You know, like I was getting certain kind of roles, like boyfriend roles.
It's like something that a chick has to go through.
Yeah, you panic because you're like, well, this is how I'm making money, and I never made any money before.
So before he finally decided to shave his head completely in 2013, he went through 2 different hair transplant procedures.
I had a hair transplant. That was the dumbest thing I've ever done. I just was scared that I was going bald. I was like, what can you do? And they tell you they can fix it. They're like, oh, great, I'll just get it fixed. But it doesn't really fix it.
What age did you do it?
30? No, not even.
Oh,
not
really?
even 30, yeah.
But what do you tell under 30 when you did it?
Yeah, I think I was 28. I just started acting on TV and I was panicking because my hair was like seriously falling out.
Both procedures were of the FUT variety, which stands for follicular unit transplantation, meaning they take a rectangular strip of skin from the back of your head in order to harvest donor hair. And this left Joe with some pretty serious scarring, which is a big part of the reason why he didn't shave his head sooner. Now, if he had this done today, they probably would have taken the FUE approach, which stands for follicular unit extraction, where they take individual hair grafts, so the scarring on the back of the head doesn't look nearly as brutal. But the thing about transplants is they move hair that's not susceptible to baldness to the front of your head, but the hair that's still there that is still susceptible to baldness continues to fall out, which is why Joe was still supplementing with drugs to prevent further hair loss.
The Propecia and the, what's the other stuff? Oh, I found this stuff that you get online that was this, pump that was, it was like azelaic acid and retin A and minoxidil. And this company had the shit. This was the shit. Yeah. This stuff kept your hair. But for whatever reason, it wasn't approved by the FDA. And so the FDA came along and they shut them down. But like I knew a bunch of dudes that were taking this stuff. It had retin A in it. It'd make your hair red. Like your scalp red if you sprayed too much of it in, but the effect was pretty dramatic. Like it really kept all of your hair.
One of the drugs he took was Propecia, aka finasteride, which is one of the most commonly prescribed drugs for male hair loss. Finasteride works by blocking a hormone called DHT, aka dihydrotestosterone, which is an androgen thought to be responsible for most of male sexual development as well as most of male pattern baldness. The current working theory is that if the hair follicles on top of your scalp are overly sensitive to DHT production, then they will quickly shrink and fall out. That's also the reason why a very common side effect of exogenous testosterone steroid use is hair loss. A spike in testosterone will cause a spike in DHT as well, since DHT is a byproduct of testosterone. So if you were genetically predisposed, you will lose your hair a lot faster than you were meant to. So if you were programmed to lose your hair at 45, you might lose it at 25 if you inject yourself with testosterone. This is pure speculation on my part, but I believe this is exactly what what we see in fighters like Paulo Costa, that overnight sudden hair loss. Now in Joe's case, I believe that he was particularly sensitive to DHT as he was experiencing some major hair loss even when he was young. And I don't really believe that Joe was using steroids when he was young because his appearance changed drastically in his early 30s. That's when I believe he first got on gear. Up until the age of 30, he had a very slim, chiseled, and defined type of face, and then within a period of 1 or 2 years, he developed what us scientists refer to as a pumpkin head. And that correlated with him gaining a bunch of muscle mass as well, but notably staying at a very similar body fat percentage. So we can't really blame the change in his face on fat gain. And if you look at this picture of him with the trained eye, it becomes pretty clear that he has all the classic signs of exogenous testosterone use. First of all, he experienced a very large amount of growth in his shoulders and his traps, which are known as the two areas that are very sensitive to exogenous androgens. It's the classic boulder shoulder look that all bodybuilders have. Second of all, he looks incredibly full, like he has a permanent pump without even working out, and that's caused by some major water retention, which is again a side effect of testosterone. And it's also contributing to his face looking a lot fuller and bloated, but it's not the main reason for it. See, the thing with steroid use is they cause muscle growth all over your body, everywhere, even in places where you don't necessarily want them to grow. And in my opinion, the main culprit in Joe's ever-increasing head and face size is hypertrophy of his masseter and his temporalis muscle groups. Now, you might assume that this is just some bro science, but I assure you that I'm really about my science and shit, you guys, so hear me out. The masseter and temporalis muscles can drastically change your appearance, and I have picture proof. The hypertrophy of these two muscle groups is very commonly caused by something called bruxism, aka teeth grinding. And as you can see, it gives the sufferers a big old watermelon head. And we see this happening to professional bodybuilders all the time. For example, here's a picture of Phil Heath, presumably before steroids, and here is him after. As you can see, he developed a Joe Rogan head, just like Joe Rogan did, so that's pretty much what I think happened there. Now, Joe has also previously admitted to taking different variations of human growth hormone, which is also known to sometimes cause acromegaly with extended use. That's a condition where the tissues in your body, like bone and ligaments, enlarge permanently. Now, it's a bit of a stretch to say that Joe is suffering from acromegaly. I mean, he's not Andre the Giant status over here, but he has been on growth hormone for a while, so it's possible he has some mild enlargement of his connective tissues and his organs, including his skin, which has given him this permanent thick face look. He also gained about 40 pounds of pure muscle mass in his early 30s, which is making him look extra stocky because he's 5'6". He claims to hover around 200 pounds, and I know that BMI isn't necessarily perfect, but that would easily put him in the obese category. Joe's not a big guy, and that's a lot of weight to pack on his frame. Like on a 6'5" frame, that weight difference is barely perceptible, but at 5'6", you're packing it onto your neck, your back, your short appendages, and it's making you look like a tree stump. So that takes care of the hair loss and the head growth, but his facial features also somewhat changed, mainly his nose. It got a lot wider over the years. And Joe claims that he first noticed that effect after getting his nose surgery in 2009. The procedure that Joe got is called a septoplasty, essentially the resection and the straightening out of the cartilage that separates your nostrils.
Where they basically go inside your nose and clear out a bunch of shit so you could breathe, because I couldn't breathe out of my nose for most of my life. You know, I fell down a flight of stairs when I was about 5 and broke my nose, and then from then, just years of doing martial arts, and it's just all fucked up inside there.
Now, Joe believes that it was the septoplasty itself that caused his nose to grow wider, but I think it was probably the compounded trauma from training and competing over the years, causing his nose bridge to adapt and turning it into what's known as a boxer's nose or a saddle nose. That's actually a really common thing that happens to fighters. I think the craziest one I've ever seen was Mike Perry.
That one night.
Look, can you do this, Eric?
My dear.
Can you do that? No, I don't think.
That is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
You want me to help you?
No, I'm good.
Of course, when we talk about Joe's changing appearance, we also can't discount the aging factor. As we age, our skin tends to lose elasticity due to elastin and collagen breaking down, and our faces tend to grow downwards and outwards. And no amount of testosterone replacement therapy or cryochambers will fix that. But I think there's also a couple of external factors that are accelerating the rate of Joe's aging, mainly the drinking. He's been knocking him back pack like crazy ever since he moved to Texas, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the guy's the man, let's face it, he created a reality for himself that most people can only dream of. So I began blasting with my friends about it too. But alcohol is known to have a pretty dramatic effect on your skin's appearance, especially when you're over 50 years old and the quality of your skin is not what it used to be anyway. And just anecdotally speaking, there is such a thing as an alcoholic face. Like, there are people that you can just point to and know for a fact that they drink. Joe's also a nicotine addict in denial, and that also has a pretty well documented and dramatic effect on your skin. So that about almost covers it, but there's one thing that I haven't yet talked about, and I can't believe that I'm about to, but I'm about to. Joe Rogan's long viral nipples. This is YouTube in 2024, people. This is where we are. So as you can see, when Joe was younger, his nipples were not long, but now that he's older, they are very long. And with age, our skin tends to sag everywhere, including your nipple area, due to the breakdown of elastin and collagen, as I previously mentioned. But after typing this conundrum into Google, do your nipples get longer as you age, I came across a couple of Reddit threads that claim your nipples get longer when you pierce them. So there is a possibility that Joe Rogan's nipples got really long when he pierced them. Now, is that a probable thing? I hope so. Alright, so that about wraps it up, and if you made it to the end of this fuckery of a video, I really appreciate it. And if you're a Joe Rogan fan, don't get too offended at the jokes. I'm just messing around here. Believe it or not, I'm a fan too, and I've been a fan for a really, really long time. I used to post on Joe Rogan's forums. Most of you guys don't even know what that is anymore. That was too hot for the internet. He had to get rid of it. I should probably do a video on that at some point. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, dislike, subscribe, and I will see you soon.